Thoughts from Airport Gap.
Yeah.
If planes were like people, would jets be considered the jocks? Would they throw hangar parties when their parents were out of town? If one plane said to the other, "I just flew in from the coast, and boy, are my arms tired," would it be considered a joke or just normal conversation?
But she's almost 14, so
The rollovers.
shaking it. Yeah. No. What's happening at DOT? All the time. So I would like to get another one.
Sometimes people just say, "Can you hold my hand?" And you make that difference. And you're helping them get through a bad day.
Good problems to have, right?
How are you? Good to see you. Too. It got like, it dipped below 70 and I felt like I could pull out a little bit. I was like, it's chilly. We were sitting outside the balcony today morning and like, I need a sweater on. The kids all ran in and like got sweatshirts. So we're such a, I mean, 65, 70. Yes, it's chilly. Yes. I'm like, I know, like, I think that's too much to be like full on boots and like sweaters. I mean, I almost did do the boots. I was like, you know. Right? Yeah, we're gonna get back over. Like, chocolate rain and stuff. Like, yeah, we're back. Like, chocolate. Yep. Whatever.
As part of the American Cities Climate Challenge, we partnered with OUC and the Science Center to bring the Orlando Tiny Greenhouse today. Visitors have an opportunity to engage in a lot of cool interactive features that will be guiding them on how to save money and reduce their environmental impact. Even though this technology has evolved, not everybody can afford EV or solar right now, so there's a lot of other great highlights of low cost and no cost opportunities to save residents money that you'll learn about when you visit the home. And the greenhouse is on wheels, so we're going to be able to take it around the community and have people enjoy it and learn from it in various different areas of our community.
Trailing thoughts from Bumby Path.
Good morning and welcome to the October 9th, 2023 workshop of the Orlando City Council. Commissioners, as we seek to build our world-class, economically vibrant, sustainable city, we know that transportation needs are probably one of the most important factors in achieving the goals that we have. And this morning, we're going to have a report from District 5, from Secretary Tyler, but I can tell you in my 20 years of being on the Council, DOT has been one of our most important and certainly willing partners in a whole variety of things, from the original creation and still almost completion of the first 61 miles of Sunrail to the I-4 Ultimate, which has made my life easier using the express lanes for sure, and I'm sure a lot of other people, but I could talk about the many, many projects, but I just want to thank the Secretary and his team and secretaries over a number of years, quite honestly, in District 5 that have been such great partners with the City of Orlando. So Tanya, you want to kick us off? Tanya Wilder, our Director of Transportation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. It's hard to believe that Sunrail has been operational for almost 10 years now. Since May of 2014, FDOT has been operating and maintaining Sunrail. This morning, Secretary Tyler and his team will be providing an update of the current system, the transition plan to the local funding partners, and ultimately the vision to expand Sunrail east-west with nights and weekends. This will allow commuters to have an alternative way to get to the Orlando International Airport, the Orange County Convention Center, and beyond. This vision will allow Brightline Intercity Rail to join seamlessly with commuter rail for a complete connection. I'm excited. District Secretary John Tyler and his team, David Cook and Brian Stenger, will be briefing this council on Sunrail and this important endeavor that will be for our Central Florida community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Welcome, Secretary.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for being here. It's a beautiful day here in Central Florida, and always appreciate coming out and being able to talk to our local community partners about the great things that are happening here in Central Florida with transportation. So communities are at the center of everything that we do at FDOT, so we really appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak directly to you about what's going on, hear your thoughts, hear your concerns, try to answer your questions, so we can try to build the best program that we can. So thank you for the opportunity today. So we're going to do a little bit of a tag team. And again, my name is John Tyler. I'm the District 5 Secretary. So I'm the Secretary for the East Central Florida area, as well as I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Sunrail. And we are going into our 10th year of operation, so we're really, really excited about that. So with me today, I have David Cook. He's going to be talking about Sunrail and what's happening on the Sunrail side of things. He is our rail administration manager. Once he's done, I will come back up, have some closing thoughts about Sunrail and transition and where we're headed in the future with Sunrail. And then we're going to transition to talking about the Sunshine Corridor. And with me, I also have Brian Stenger. He's our intermodal systems development administrator, and he's leading our working group with the CFCRC. as well as of our private partners on the Sunshine Corridor. So he'll close things out, and then we'll come back up and answer any questions that y'all have about the information that we've presented today. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Cook. David?
Good morning, Mayor and Council, and thank you, Secretary
Good morning.
Tyler. This morning, we're going to start off with Sunrail update, something related to our current program. And first up is the train to plane. This is the Lynx connection out to the airport from the Sand Lake Station. That Route 111 is our express bus that's running through there. It takes about 12 minutes to get over to the airport. So really promoting and wanting to get the word out for both commuters and passengers to the airport that they can take those trains. Also 11 and 42 are additional routes that run through that area out to the airport. Event update. We just got through College Week, which was where college students in the area with valid IDs could ride the train for free for that week. It's a good opportunity to introduce students to the ability to use public transportation to get to school. At the end of this month, we have Mobility Week coming up, where there'll be many events that I'm sure most of you will be attending at some point. Boo on Broadway is down at Kissimmee later in the month as well. And then our mobile ticketing pilot program is going to be rolling out this month. And then as we get it further into the year, we'll have our holiday promotions. Rail Safety Week. We just got through with Rail Safety Week, September 18th through the 22nd. And this is a nationwide effort to raise awareness of the importance of being safe around railroad tracks. This year's Sunrail campaign was entitled Avoid the Impact, and it featured devastating effects of train strikes can have on individuals involved in the incident, who were not involved directly in the incident. First responders, our passengers, crews, and witnesses near the tracks can be changed forever by what they see. And this series included some videos from our train crews, our conductors, engineers, as well as first responders. We are proud that we had a full turnout of 100% participation with all law enforcement agencies this year along the corridor. So they were monitoring these crossings and handing out citations where necessary and warnings related to stopping on the tracks. So we still have way too many folks that are stopping on the tracks. Our fare collection system. So this is something that we will be rolling out this month as far as starting the mobile ticketing. And this time, and we will be using now QR codes. So it's a little bit different ticket than what we had been doing. We should be able to save quite a bit on that expense. The ticket vending machines are in. Those will start being installed on the platforms most likely in early November, as well as the ticket validators. So you'll be seeing work on the platforms. And then our advanced ticketing system, which is really the mobile app. This is something that we've had a lot of folks wanting to know why we don't have mobile ticketing apps so that they can just purchase their ticket on the app and not have to deal with the paper and whatnot. So major convenience, we look for that to be very successful. We are having an initial pilot rollout this month in a week or so, and then follow up with a full rollout in November based on the success. Our average daily ridership through July and August was a little over 4,100. Certainly we want to get those numbers higher. Obviously with hybrid work as well as the success of the I-4 program that probably has dented some of the riders, but we're looking forward to increasing that ridership as well. Phase 2 North, which is also the extension, the northern extension to DeLand. That work is well underway as far as track, communications, crossings, and then the DeLand station. So as you can see in the photograph here, the DeLand station is well underway, and specifically on the platform work is proceeding right now. So looking forward to being complete in May the 15th is what our target is. and that will allow us to begin the transition over to the CFCRC. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Secretary Tyler.
Okay, so thank you, David. So one thing that I'd also like to update the commission on is what we're talking about doing in regards to transition. So as I mentioned, we're entering into our 10th year of operating the SunRail system. We're finishing out the expansion, the full build out of the full 61 miles, which was the original vision. So we expect to open Phase 2 North to DeLand by May of next year. So we're working hard to make that a reality. You see that we're completely replacing our ticket vending system, both the online portion as well as what you see on the platforms, bringing it up to a modern system. And so both of those two efforts, the completion of the 61 miles, the extension to DeLand, and the replacement of the ticket vending system really sets us up to be able to complete the transition. The original goal of this effort was DOT would build it, we would operate it for 7 years, and then there would be a transition to the local partners to take it from there and take it and continue to grow the system. So we're on track, for that, pun intended. And so we're looking forward now to what happens after Phase 2 North is open to DeLand. So we're in active discussions with our partners, all 5 of the local partners of the CFCRC, to talk about what those next steps are in regards to transition. So there's 2 components. There's a financial transition, which basically means that the local partners begin assuming the responsibility of paying for that annual operating cost for SunRail, as well as the operational aspects of being able to literally hand the keys of the train over to a new operator. So we've been operating it now for almost a decade when we hand that over. There's a lot that goes on to be able to make that happen, and we're working closely with our partners to ensure a smooth, successful, seamless transition from our public and customers' perspective. So those, we don't have definitive dates for those transition items, but we are actively working on those. And again, with the opening of DeLand next May, really sets us up to be able to take that next step in transition the way that it has always been intended. So we're looking forward to that as well. So the next thing that we're going to move into is talking about the Sunshine Corridor. I was asked by Mayor Dyer when he was serving as the chair of the Central Florida Commuter Rail Commission. He asked the department if we would take on the role of leading a working group and a ridership study to specifically talk about the Sunshine Corridor and see if there was a possibility of bringing that further to fruition. So we were happy to take on that role. We've been doing that for about 1.5 years now. Once we started down that journey, we expanded the role a little bit to include also producing some preliminary cost and phasing options to be able to give the CFCRC some options to consider for how to move forward, and a realistic idea of what this may cost, not just to the state of Florida, but also to the local communities as well. So that additional responsibility came with our role, and we're here today to talk about where we are and where we're going. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian Stanger to walk us through the Sunshine Corridor. Brian?
Thank you, Secretary Tyler, for the introduction. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So now it's the fun stuff. As John mentioned, my name is Brian Stanger. I serve as the Modal Development Administrator for District 5, and I'm very happy to be here to update you on the Sunshine Corridor. Okay, so let's start out with our project purpose and need. The Sunshine Corridor really provides a premium transportation option to improve mobility, connectivity, and accessibility to major employment centers while stimulating economic development opportunities to support adjacent communities in the rapidly growing Central Florida region. Some of our project goals, as you can see, are listed above. I'll go through a few of those. A big one is to connect residents to employment, leisure opportunities, and essential services. Certainly promoting economic development and increased local commerce. Provide safe travel options for regional travel. Of course, provide cost-effective regional transportation, and really taking advantage of an environmental benefit with air quality, and trying to reduce a lot of those single occupancy vehicles off the roadways. So our project description, proposed comprehensive multi-phase, multi-passenger rail program. Publicly owned, joint-use passenger rail corridor with a proposed stop at the Orlando International Airport, Orange County Convention Center, and somewhere in the South I Drive and Disney Springs area. Of course, connecting to our existing Sunrail system, as well as connecting to our Brightline intercity passenger rail corridor. So this is a diagram of the Sunshine Corridor area, just to kind of familiarize this with you all. The diagram on the right, if you start on the very right, you'll see that bright yellow line coming in. That is Brightline coming from Miami and then traveling west down the 528, tying into the Orlando International Airport. And then if you follow that sort of that blue swath coming out of the bottom of the airport, it's going to potentially ride the OUC spur, which then will head to the left, or which would be west, towards the bright green line, which is the Sunrail main line. So we'll tie into this to the main line, head north, and then take a hard sort of westerly turn at Taft Vineland, which is an Orange County road. Keep heading westerly, till we kind of run into the 528 corridor. At that point, we were planning on stopping at the Orange County Convention Center. And then we're going to kind of, fly over onto I-4, take that in a southwest direction down to the South I Drive, Disney Springs area. And then after that, there's the proposed Brightline to Tampa. Okay, so where are we at with the Sunshine Corridor? Right now, we are currently under our TCAR study, which stands for Transit Concept and Alternatives Review. It's an early environmental analysis that really assesses and evaluates project alternatives, prior to advancing into a federal or state project development process. Some of the key tasks are listed here. Project description, purpose and need. Big one is our public and stakeholder engagement. Preliminary ridership forecasts, cost estimates, and a big one is the alternatives evaluation. So, with the preliminary analysis, we're always encouraging input and feedback from our partners and our stakeholders. And these will help guide sort of the fluidity of the corridor as it moves forward. Things like transfer location options, levels of service, quality of service. You can see in the pictures, there's the OIA ITF, there's a picture of the Sunrail, and then the lower right is as an engineer I have to throw this up, it's a string diagram of all the different train services that come through the main line in the east-west, and so we're trying to balance all those needs. So our preliminary results. Great news, ridership model has a strong indication of good ridership to OIA, the Convention Center, and South I Drive. If you look to that diagram on the right, let's start with the green box. That's the green box represents the main line of the Sunrail today. So if you're starting at our north location, which is DeLand, and you want to ride down to Ponciana, it's about an hour and 40 minutes travel time. There's 30-minute frequencies in the AM and PM peak, and then 60-minute frequencies at all other times. If you go to the sort of the dark blue lines, that's our sort of direct connect shuttles that go to the airport. One from the north, which starts at Link Central Station, and that's about a 28-minute travel time. 15-minute frequencies in the midday, and 30-minute frequencies, at other times. And then conversely, to the south, it starts at Kissimmee on the blue line and goes to OIA. That's about a 21-minute travel time. Same thing, 15-minute frequency in midday, 30-minute at other times. So if we jump to the orange is our east-west connection. And if you start at OIA and you want to ride out to the Disney Springs area, you're looking at about a 25-minute travel time. And that is 15-minute frequencies all day long. So these are our assumptions, these are our inputs that go into our modeling and our cost estimates that kind of led us to where we are today. And so we feel that from OIA to the Orange County Convention Center, you're looking at about a $2 billion capital cost. How do we develop that estimate? So we're using the most recent data we can. We have Brightline information that's just been constructed. We have our Phase 2 North in DeLand that's being constructed. So we used all those tools in our toolbox to really help us develop this estimate. So our next steps. We have a final report slated for the fall. That's just going to wrap up our ridership and our cost estimates. Options from this will be presented to the CFCRC to consider moving forward. FDOT needs to consider, our funding outlook for our programs for rail and transit in the future coming years. And so our TCAR study, we're actually going to start our public involvement at the end of this month, and we're going to continue into early next month to really reach out to stakeholders, citizens, and really try to get that input and feedback, to move our study forward. So with that, that's my last slide. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions? I don't have any in the queue. There we go. Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Stewart, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. And just for clarification, was this more of a presentation, or can we ask some probing questions? Or I'm not quite sure
Yeah,
okay.
Open for questions.
I'll kind of go back to the first section. And again, may sound critical, but it just may be my ignorance. So we'll say that on the front end. So help me. We talked about train to plane, and you said we're going to do a new marketing campaign. What does that look like? Do we know yet?
Yes, Commissioner, thank you for that question. So with the most recent expansion or
Secretary,
modification.
if you could come over to the mic.
Sorry, thank you. Is that better? Thank you. So twice a year, Lynx makes modifications to their existing service, and in one of their most recent modifications, they increased the level of bus service between the airport and Sunrail stations, specifically the Sand Lake station. So with that opportunity, we wanted to make sure that we were reaching as many customers as possible that would be interested in looking for another way of getting to the airport than driving their car. So it has started off primarily with focusing on Sunrail riders, but we have developed marketing materials that we're using. There will be billboards, which we don't use a whole lot of billboards these days, but they do still serve a purpose. But we are looking for ways to actually try to encourage folks, make them aware of these new opportunities that the Lynx expansion has provided to be able to give them another opportunity to get to the airport. So we can follow back up with the city on some specifics that we've done in terms of social media, commercials and online billboards, and what may be occurring as we move through the year. So this service change just went into effect, I believe, at the beginning of September, late August. So it's a relatively new change, and we're trying to get the word out.
Okay. And again, forgive me for sounding critical here, but if you look at your ridership numbers, and I think the comment was you want to get the ridership numbers up. We all do. But for the last 4 years, ridership has been flat, which would indicate either A, there's not the demand we thought there was, or B, perhaps our marketing and getting the message out and explaining to people the benefits of Sunrail haven't been as effective as we want. And that was kind of the basis of it. It doesn't seem like our marketing campaign, from my observation for Sunrail, based on the current route, has been very effective. And so I guess just from my perspective, I would love to ask you and myself to dig in more to how we're marketing Sunrail, because for 4 years it's been flat.
No, that's a great observation, Commissioner. We'll certainly take that back. We do have a dedicated budget for marketing of Sunrail activities. That's part of the budget that will be transitioned over to the local government funding partners after the transition occurs. So certainly something that needs to be a long-term component of this system. One thing that I would like to point out, if you recall the ridership numbers that we showed earlier, that Mr. Cook showed earlier, basically since the pandemic, the ridership has fallen off dramatically. And it has come back slowly. You can see from that slide that every year the ridership continues to creep back to where we were, but we still have a long way to go to get back to exactly where we were. A lot of things have changed since the pandemic. People's commute patterns have changed. The way people work has changed. The way people, what they do, on Sunrail to come to downtown Orlando has changed. Other alternatives, other modes have also, come online, like I-4 Express, Wekiva Parkway. So all of those modes, people are competing. All those modes are competing for people's attention. So we will continue to try to do the best that we can with the marketing dollars that we have set aside. But absolutely, your point is well taken. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I guess part of that too, there's two main critical elements that I've heard from folks that I talk to about it. And again, I live in Lake Nona, so I don't have access to Sunrail. So again, some of this may be ignorance. But one is the ticketing situation, and I'm a bit surprised that we're just now doing a pilot program on mobile ticketing. It seems like we're a little behind the curve on that. Maybe that's unfair, so I'd ask you about that. And two, the last mile concept, right? We get off the Sunrail at whatever the station might be. How do we get to that, what we're calling the last mile, the next 5 or 6 blocks? Do you guys feel like there's initiatives and strategies that we're talking about, or is that maybe not your purview and something some other group needs to kind of solve that?
Those are great questions, Commissioner. So let me tackle first the ticketing, the mobile ticketing. So it's not a pilot. We're actually switching to a mobile ticketing platform. So that's we're still using the original ticketing system that the state purchased and had installed almost 9 years ago when we first opened. So it has outlived its useful life. Technology has dramatically improved. We would have liked to have replaced this ticket vending system earlier. We had to simply find the room in our budgets to be able to do that. So the state of Florida has been carrying the load of funding the operations as well as the replacement of infrastructure that has reached the end of its service life. So that's when we were able to get it into the program. We started this effort 2 years ago, and the actual new ticket machines are literally sitting in a warehouse here in the Orlando area, and we're ready to start installing those new systems and rolling out the new mobile platform before the end of this year. So it's taken us a little while, absolutely, but we are here and we're ready to make that transition. The next question was, could you refresh me on what the next question was? Last mile. Absolutely, we're working on last mile, and last mile is something that we all need to work on together as a community. But DOT has several things that we have going on. One is our Rethink Your Commute program, which reaches out to businesses, tries to help them and their employees to be able to connect to other modes of transportation and try to hook those folks up together. But absolutely, we need to work together. I know Links is something that that they're focused on as well. But every single community, if you want to take full advantage of your Sunrail station, we all need to think about how can we improve that last mile connectivity.
Great, thank you. A couple questions for Brian, real quick, or you can take them. Brian, for the new corridor, a lot has been written, but I'd like to ask you while you're here: do we have the right-of-way secured for that beach line east-west connection? Is the right-of-way secured? And of the plus or minus $2 billion that we're estimating, what's kind of the breakout between the acquisition cost for land versus the hard the capital improvements of the track and the facilities?
Would you like me to take that? Commissioner, I would say that the majority of the right-of-way is secure, but there will be right-of-way that needs to be acquired along all of the alignments that we showed. But the very specifics, we need to get into design to be able to do that. And so far, the investments have not been made to be able to do the level of design that would be able to identify the specific, amount of right-of-way and where. The cost that we have put forward is a rough order of magnitude cost, trying to make sure that the community understands the scale and scope that this project is going to take on. But a lot of work still needs to go into refining what that really means. And to do that, we need to move forward into the process. We need to move into project development and into design, and that's when those specific questions of right-of-way would be answered. But we are looking at trying to take advantage of the publicly owned right-of-ways that are available. The OUC spur coming out of the airport, the CFCRC main line going north-south, Taft Vineland, which is an Orange County facility, State Road 528, which is a state facility. But there will be some private or right-of-way acquisition that will be required along the corridor, and we'll have to nail that down as we move ahead.
Got it. And my last question, future ownership, as we have several routes going. We have Brightline involved to the east, and their accuracy and on-timeness and et cetera, and how they operate is an important component to this. Do you envision one ownership group long-term? Again, I know it's early, but is that your vision, that we have one ownership group controlling all of those, or do you feel like it can be operated successfully with 2 or 3 groups operating the different functions?
Well, I'd like to make the distinction between ownership and operations.
Okay.
So with ownership, I mean, the discussions that we've been having is that we would, all of the public owners of these rights-of-way, which would be City of Orlando, Orange County, the CFCRC, and the state of Florida, that we would potentially all come together and aggregate our right-of-ways together, but not necessarily change ownership. That's something that can be discussed, but we've started under the assumption that we're all in this together and we're all willing to, to contribute our rights of way. Once we have a right of way, produced together, that can be made accessible to operators through agreements with those operators, whether that operator is the Central Florida Commuter Rail Commission, whether that operator is the state of Florida, or whether that operator is a private entity such as Brightline.
Okay. Thank you very much for asking for answering those questions. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner, and if your question presupposed, there could be joint use of tracks between different operators. Okay, Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate the work that y'all, pardon me, have y'all done. I'm on my throat. A lot of the questions that Jim asked, I was on the same line, but let me kind of go back in time. To make it essentially profitable or break even, what's the ridership number that we need today? Is it 7,000, 7,500? What is it? What do we need to accomplish that task? I know it's a hard question to ask, but
It is a hard question, Commissioner, and unfortunately, I don't have the specific answer because transit systems generally don't break even.
Right.
They're subsidized. Part of the public service and public transportation options that are made available to communities, it requires a subsidy. Sunrail is no different. Your Lynx bus system is no different. An expansion of Sunrail would likely be no different. So I don't have a specific number for what the break-even point is.
Do you have kind of a target number that you're looking for? I mean, we're topped out at 5,000, end up being about 3,900, 4,000 as an average. What do you think, in your mind, represents a good, adequate use of that? Is it 6,000, 7,000? Is it 10,000? I mean, that's what I'm kind of looking at.
I think I understand your question, Commissioner, but I'm going to have to unfortunately answer it from a kind of slightly different direction because we don't, set targets in that manner. But one of the things that we're doing as part of the Sunshine Corridor is the TCAR, that's the Transit Concept Alternatives Report. What that does is it compares different modes of transit, okay? Because, Sunrail is one way to get to the convention center and to the airport. Bus system is another way. A maglev train, there's other sorts of modes that are available, transit alternatives that are available. And what the TCAR attempts to do is identify those different transit alternatives. What are their ridership numbers? What are their cost numbers, their capital costs as well as their operating costs, and it compares them. Okay, and the one that's most competitive is generally the one that the local communities want to move forward with because it's the most cost competitive. That's also going to be the alternative that's most likely going to be a candidate for additional state funding as well as additional federal funding. They're going to want to invest their money in the most cost competitive transit option that's available. So the TCAR will be looking at other modes in addition to Sunrail. But to be able to answer, that's how we get to the answer to that question. What's the most cost-effective alternative is through this study.
Funding sources for the $2 billion. We had the wonderful benefit of getting funding through FDOT and the work that we did with Sunrail. Where do we see the next core funding? Because I think what ends up happening is that the funding source may tend to slow the whole process down.
Absolutely. So funding is critical. We need funding to move forward from where we are, even with doing the TCAR. So funding is absolutely necessary. And, and as we've mentioned, this is a very expensive infrastructure project. It should deliver incredible results for this community, but it's going to be an expensive project. So we want to look for all the funding opportunities that we can find. The new Federal Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act that was passed created a huge program for expanding inner city rail across our country. Billions of dollars are in that program. And so, we want to be mindful of that, try to take advantage of that, because a part of the Sunshine Corridor is expanding the intercity rail connection from Orlando to Tampa. So we want to take advantage of that. The Federal Transit Administration has ongoing programs to increase transit utilization in the United States. We want to be able to take advantage of that. To do that, we've got to go through this TCAR process. We've got to be able to show that expanding Sunrail to the airport and to the convention center and points beyond are going to bring the ridership, and we can do it in a cost-effective manner that's going to be competitive. We've got private investment that is very interested in trying to help us with these transportation challenges here in Central Florida. You've got Brightline that has invested an incredible amount of money creating that service from Miami to Orlando, and they want to invest some more money to be able to take it to Tampa. You've heard from Universal and Orlando's Wright Rail Group about trying to help bring Sunrail to the convention center, and they've talked about potentially donating land and helping with some of the construction and operating costs. We want to be able to take advantage of all the federal opportunities, all of the private opportunities, because at the end of the day, there's still going to be a slice of this cost pie that's going to come back to the local communities and to the state of Florida. So we want to try to get that cost, the share of that pie down as far as we can, as low as we can. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a combination of all of those sources to be able to bring the Sunshine Corridor to fruition.
I've had a chance this past week to talk to your boss, listen to your boss talk about the impact in the state. And I'm so grateful for your commitment to transportation as well as his, and also the emphasis of your hot spots, of which one of them happens to be Central Florida. As long as we continue to stay on that task, I think all of us are thrilled about being able to see what the future holds. One last quick question. When Sunrail started, it was a big emphasis to partner with companies and just partner with the City of Orlando, partner with Advent Health to try to get people to come back and forth. In your marketing plan, how has that worked? Has it worked well? Has it not worked well? Was it good for getting the information out, but didn't turn people into coming actually using Sunrail? Tell me how that was. Was it effective?
Well, I think the results probably speak for themselves, but we have engaged with those local partners ever since we opened. And we have had part of our annual budget includes a marketing effort to be able to connect with local businesses, help their employees understand the benefits of Sunrail and the opportunities of Sunrail. So that effort has been going on for 9 years. Personally, I think what we went through with the pandemic has made a profound change in kind of how we work and how we get to work. And I think that's one of the key drivers in seeing the ridership that we have today.
The single biggest complaint I get is that it doesn't run enough. And we have to remember that it's a commuter rail. It's not, a classic passenger rail system. And so you end up having this kind of catch-22. We want more ridership. To get more ridership, we have to be here more frequently. To be more frequently, you have to get more money. I mean, it ends up being kind of this constant change. And I know we're working down that path as best we can. So I appreciate you accomplishing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Dyer, and thank you, Dave and Brian, and Secretary Tyler of District 5. I might be a little biased. I'm District 5 Commissioner, so that's all right. I think without a vision, the people perish, and I'm just excited what I'm hearing this morning. I had the privilege about a month and a half ago to travel on Sunrail. Wasn't a event, or I got on there, wanted to go have lunch over in Park Avenue, and got on the train and just people watch, something I love to do, and came on back and got in my car here in City Hall. Then another Saturday I went over to the Sanford Main Street, and I was thoroughly impressed about the I guess engineer of the train, and just the express, and just to sit back and look out the windows. I am hopeful, and I anticipate something that we have here at the City of Orlando through Mayor Dyer's leadership is being future ready. And I think this is what this presentation is. It's not just what our past is. I think you're working out the kinks and reassessing what's working and what isn't working, and how we can improve, and especially the new campaign, right? In order to, and I think that's what you found. Maybe you have to improve on messaging and getting that information out. I also would like to know how I can help, especially with the campaigns about ticketing. I never knew about the Mobility Week, College Week, and those things, and how my office can assess it to get that information out there through our social media component and possibly our communications team, because we have access to the fingertips of our constituencies. The other component I would love to know more about and be a part of, if I can help, is that inner city piece. You hit that spot on. As far as when we become future ready, and I think the nation going towards electrical vehicles, something like this is going to be essential for those that's trying to get to work, whether it's here in this corner, catching links downtown to that hub, going going south and north, but now also going out to the convention and iDrive and Tampa. With those type of opportunities, I don't think we can miss that component in the next 5-10 years. So getting prepared and ready for that, less cars right on the roads. That's something that I know the nation, this city has been talking about in the state of Florida. I guess the other acts now is, and I know you are, and thank you for working with us on the under eye and that donation. And I know it hasn't been passed at council, but something the business owners and downtowners and those that's coming to downtown are concerned about is mobility. So with the Sunrail right there, and I know it's a certain amount of hours, are we working with staff to talk about possible extended hours during the multiple events, over almost 150 events we have there at Amway Center, and different events we're having downtown, and also Camping World Stadium, and how we're having major concerts and bowl games during those special events. And once we get that under eye operational as a mobility hub during those times, how you can coincide the times with the Sunrail. I know not every day or every evening, but it's that discussions about coinciding our special events at later hours. I know you're doing it, but more so.
That's a great question, Commissioner, and we are, actively working with, with the local, partners, to be able to make those trains available, those special event trains available. We do look for, for the cost to be covered by the either the communities or the event sponsors. But we're more than welcome to provide, extra service if there is, someone that can help cover that cost.
Is there a discussion or option to, even with going out to the convention center, OIA, here for major events that we're having, to, and I know not now because that session is gone, but in the future, to tap in into possible TDT dollars to cover those operational expenses during special events, or in partnership to go to the convention during their events, or OIA.
No, thank you for that, Commissioner. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on TDT, but I do think that the local communities are going to be looking for all sorts of ways to be able to, to fund, Sunrail. As I mentioned, the transition is getting closer and closer. Next year we're going to open Phase 2 North to the land, and then we're going to bring about the transition, and that includes the funding transition. So, until that point in time, we're kind of keeping things status quo, so to speak, at least in terms of the, the daily schedule for the train, because that's a real cost. If you want to increase it, it costs money. So, we've kind of held the commuter schedule, the way it is. Because quite frankly, the 5 local funding partners are all still trying to figure out exactly how they're going to be able to pay for their share. So, now's not necessarily the best time for us to talk about, expanding those hours, because it would also increase, that financial obligation. But that's part of Sunrail's future, though. Once we get beyond transition, if you want to increase the hours of service, it does come with a financial obligation, and I think every community understands that, but they're also going to be looking for ways, how can they be able to pay for that increase in service.
Is that $2 billion part of the operation, or is it just the capital component?
We believe that's the capital costs.
So we still have to figure out the operational component for the area?
Yes, ma'am.
And we don't have a number on that just yet. We've worried about the...
We have some preliminary numbers that we've shared with the working group. So each
Okay.
of the 5 partners of Sunrail each has team members that are part of the working group, and we've shared a lot more information than we've shared today.
I get it.
But
It's
yes,
like-
because the operations, it goes along with it. The choices that you make in terms of the schedule of service, where you want to transfer, the user experience that you want these folks to have as they're moving through the system, they all translate into pluses and minuses, both on the capital side as well as on the operating cost side. So Brian showed the string diagram. That was the modeling that we went through to be able to convince ourselves that we can provide all of this train service, intercity rail, commuter rail, in addition to the other rail service that's already, using this corridor. You've got Amtrak, you've got CSX, delivering freight. All of that still needs to continue. So we've done a pretty exhaustive analysis to be able to figure out what are those costs, that need to be considered, and we've shared that with the working group.
Well, thank you for your resilience and sustaining when they said it wasn't going to happen and it would die. And we're still going and looking to the future. My other thing is a thank you. I just on my way to City Hall, saw the underground work getting ready to happen on the Hicks extension off of Anderson, and just excited for the future. So thank you guys, and look forward to update.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. A lot of the questions that I had have already been asked by my colleagues, but I also was interested in that ideal ridership, for the financial sustainability. So I'll be interested in hearing. But so when we talk about the Sunshine Corridor, that's something that's very of interest to me. So when we talk about the operating, it hadn't been determined who will be operating the Sunshine Corridor, or it will be several different operators in that stretch.
No, thank you for letting me try to clarify that, because it is a very complex arrangement. So the right-of-ways that we're looking at for the Sunshine Corridor, go through several different jurisdictions today. City of Orlando, the CFCRC, Orange County, State of Florida. And what's been proposed so far is that everyone retains their ownership, but everyone also, would potentially grant rights for an operator, to use that right-of-way to be able to run an intercity service or a commuter rail service. So that's on the ownership side. When it comes to operations, there potentially could be multiple operators using the Sunshine Corridor, and that's kind of the real vision behind it, is that it's a joint use corridor that serves multiple functions. But there would need to be, and even if you have multiple operators, let's say, for example, an intercity rail operator could be Brightline, so they could be one of the operators on the Sunshine Corridor. The other operator for commuter rail could be Sunrail and the CFCRC, if they choose to expand their service to east-west. So those could be two. There could be others as well, but just, for the time being, we'll talk about kind of those two. The owners, would be able to grant the rights for others to use that track. And essentially, all of this would end up, kind of being distilled down into a series of agreements, which is like what we have for Sunrail today, which you have the local partners agreeing to certain things. You have the state of Florida agreeing to certain things. You still have CSX, which is a private entity, that utilizes the corridor, but when they use it today, they pay a fee. So there's arrangements that could be developed. to be able to operate it. But to Mayor's point that he made earlier, the Sunshine Corridor could have multiple operators on it, but it would all be negotiated and agreed upon by all the parties that are involved.
So the financial responsibility would lie with those different operators and not look for the city or these other jurisdictions to subsidize it?
Well, that's a complicated question to answer. I don't want to say it depends, but it does depend. First, you got to get to the capital cost. You got to build it. You know, how's it going to be funded? And that needs to be worked out. And the funding for the capital cost could come from a variety of different sources. The more sources that it comes from, you know, the more complicated the arrangement's going to be to kind of make all the pieces and part, you know, fit together. Once you have the system built, you know, then you have to pay for the operations. Most likely, each operator would find a way to pay for their own costs, you know, through their own, you know, ticket sales. But if we use the example of the CFCRC, Sunrail being, you know, the commuter rail extension, you know, as we've talked about, ticket sales don't exactly cover the full cost. So they're probably still going to be, you know, a subsidy of sorts to be able to cover the operational costs of a Sunrail expansion. But those things, we're still very early, you know, to be able to answer those questions definitively. To be able to answer them more specifically, we do have to kind of move forward, you know, as a group, as a community, you know, and try to explore this more.
So depending on the operator could influence who may be responsible or have some responsibility in subsidizing the operations. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you, that's all I have, Mayor.
Commissioner, let's be clear, though. If we expand Sunrail to the airport and to iDrive and to South iDrive, we will be a participant. Some number, maybe not all 5, but some number of the current local governments will be a participant. But what's more complicated, and in a good way, is we have private partners also, like Universal, that is stepping up and saying, we would participate in not only building a station and providing land, but also look at how we could help with the operation and maybe be a backstop to achieve a certain level of ridership. Well, Secretary, that's all the people that.
One more, I couldn't miss this.
Oh, are you on there?
Yeah, I was. I just took it off.
Okay, Commissioner Hill.
I apologize. This is off topic, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to have the secretary here and not ask this question, Mayor. So oblige me. So we are almost, we went through from, and I know it's CFX and FDOT, primarily FDOT with the ultimate I-4 component and the 4A component. But from here in Paramore, from Gore, that Gore Street extension now going towards Hicks, all that available land. Hopefully a conversation can be had about the city taking possession of the land to continue to create some affordable housing and mixed income housing along with a possible commercial component. So, you know, I'm not asking today, but I'm asking. And I look forward to those conversations if they're being had.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, guys, for being here.
Thank you for your time.
So that will conclude our workshop for the day.